Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Page Chewing Comics and Manga Pick of the Week, episode number 44. This is a podcast where we talk about mostly new single-issue comics. My name is Mike, and I'm back here with Steve, and we're two guys, as we have said before, who are doing the weekly comics thing, single-issue comics mostly. And we're just doing our own thing. We're not necessarily picking the most trendiest things, but we're picking comics that interest us. I don't know if that's about right, Steve. But what do you think? Is this? I'm not trying to update the raison d'être or the mission statement of the podcast. But does that sound roughly what we're trying to do here?
Yeah, sounds right to me. When I used to listen to a lot of comic book podcasts, and I would listen to them because I love comic books, but they never talked about the books I was reading. There was only one or two that didn't last too long. So I was always hoping for a comic book podcast that wouldn't read all the trendy stuff and the things that everyone else talked about. And it's kind of like what we are now. So it's kind of neat, even though it's really not the most... I guess if you're looking for numbers, it's not the way to go, of course, but that's okay, because what matters is we're having a good time and talking about things we're passionate about. I'm not a big fan of doing things for downloads or for views or whatever. Just doing what you're passionate about and what you enjoy, and the rest will come on its own.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel. I think we have also been willing to try and so if we hear, for example, something sounds good and we might not necessarily go for it, there's been a few cases where, for example, with I'm going to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man in a moment. That was one of those where I was like, I heard it's good. I wouldn't have normally picked it up. But anyway, that's kind of what we've been doing. And no, I don't think the whole purpose, as far as we're concerned, is really to get as many downloads or streams, if you will. But we're just having a good time.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a formula you can follow if that's what's important to you, and that's cool and everything. But the way I think of it, if we have one dedicated listener, someone out there is listening every week and they're enjoying it, then I'm happy. So,
yeah.
We have more than one listener, but if we have one that's like waiting on Wednesdays that are like, waiting for the episode to appear and they download it and listen to it during their workout or while they're doing mundane tasks and then I'm happy. Then that's, let's hope we have, at least one.
Yeah.
But if we have one, I'm good.
Yeah, me too.
So I guess we'll jump into it. With all that said, after the events of Spawn 350, I was trying to get back into the Spawn books. I was trying to get some footing in all of them, and a lot of them just haven't really hit the mark for me. I gave King Spawn 34 a try, and I like the artwork. And in this issue, Al is on a mission to rescue Granny, who's still a granny after 30 years. She was a granny back in 96 or whenever Spawn launched, and everyone else I noticed, like Cyan is older now in this issue. She's a young adult, I guess, and everyone else is aged, but Granny seems to be immortal, I guess. Maybe she's a vampire. Either way, he's on a mission to rescue her, and there's still this vampire war going on. He still doesn't have his powers back yet. So they're in this weird transitional period. And I really don't have a whole lot to say. I mean, it was fine. The artwork was all right. It reminded me of like Ben Templesmith, 30 Days of Night. That kind of like long, streaky kind of horror vibes when it fits Spawn. And McFarlane is the writer on this one. So I can appreciate that because this is Baby. But it was not a whole lot. I didn't really have a takeaway at all. I just was very forgettable, and I just felt kind of empty when it was done. Like, what was that? So I start to wonder, how many Spawn books do we need? I think we've talked about that before with this and other titles. Like, there's certain characters that just don't need that many books. They don't need that many supporting characters. Sometimes you focus on one or two books, or like the main title, and then like a group book or something else that's adjacent. But I don't know. I'm really trying to get into them. I'm struggling with this one, but I'll give it another shot. I'll give the next issue a shot. I think Gunslinger, I'm probably out on.
Mm-hmm.
Scorched is okay, but I'll give Kingspawn another issue or two.
Yeah, I wonder. It made me think like there's a lot of good stuff out there that I'm seeing. Like I think this week, for me, I had a lot of great reads. So I guess the question is, where am I going to put my money? I was saying to my friendly comic shop guy who I talked with today, and I was saying, well, I think I limit myself to so many, maybe 4 or 5 a week. It depends. Sometimes it's more or less. But I think there's only so many that are going to get my investment.
Yeah, and it's the investment, it's the money, the financial investment. It's also the time investment.
Yeah,
because we're busy people and we don't have all the time in the world to do this kind of thing. So all those things go into consideration. And if we pass on like a newer book that we're on the fence about, that may be something that we would enjoy, or another ongoing book that we give a shot to, like Holy Roller, for instance, then we may find a book we really enjoy, and we're kind of forcing ourselves to read something that we're hoping to get into instead of giving something else a chance that may kind of spark our interest more. So it's a tough to balance.
Yeah. So for my first comic, as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man number 5. And right off the bat, we'll say, the first 3 issues were had a certain artist that I really liked, and the last 2 is somebody new. I believe his name is Messina, and I'm not saying it's bad artwork, but it's not what I liked, what appealed to me in the first 3, so I'm not going to say that it is a bait and switch. Who knows? Maybe something happened, but I don't know how these things get decided, but it's really interesting to me. So that's my first kind of commentary on what's happening with the series. It has nothing to do with the story, but just aesthetically, it's changed. It's not what it was. So yeah, I don't know. Curious what you think, but basically we're getting a flashback here, so I don't mind that. And it's issue 5, so we're going to get some backstory of what happened to Harry and Norman Osborn and their kind of strained relationship. So that was quite interesting. And then so we sort of get the sense of what's driving Osborn here, why he's now kind of a good guy-ish, although not totally clear. There's a few new characters introduced. One, I don't know if I should say, but he's well known, not so much from kind of the Spider-Man world, not one of the kind of Sinister Six or whatever, but so that was kind of exciting and interesting. And I know this is something for you, Steve. Like, there is this theme about kind of the big corporation and, taking over and all of that in this one. So, we do hear that. We do see that quite a lot. That I don't know if that's a trope or what, but I generally I was happy with this. It's certainly not the pick of the week for me, but this series continues to be intriguing and interesting, and zigging when you think it would be zagging. So generally, I'm still okay with it. I'm going to continue.
Yeah, I think the artwork, I think they probably accelerated the release schedule for this one because it was so popular, and I'm not sure that the artist could keep up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's what happened, but I know that there's times when the artist just can't keep up with as fast as they want the book printed. So maybe that's what's going on. I might be totally wrong, But it's too bad because you get kind of a feel for the book and you get a rhythm going with it, and the art changes, and it's just not the same. So
yeah, it's I don't want to say it's strikingly different, but I think for number 4, I had even commented on something, and it wasn't a big deal, but it was maybe the way somebody was being depicted. And then in this one, I would say that Peter is not recognizable. Even he looks very different in a way, to me. I mean, so just even the way he looks, but I don't think that's a big deal per se. But just to say it's a little kind of you get a different vibe or a different kind of feel with the characters sometimes, the way they're drawn.
Yeah, especially comics being a visual medium, it's a kind of jarring. It can be jarring.
Yeah.
So the my next one was Drawing Blood number 2. This follows it's a semi-autobiographical story from the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Of course, they don't mention that. They have a fictional group that the character in this book co-created, and kind of what happened to him, and that he sold his creation, and now he's left with almost nothing. And his co-creation, the thing that he helped create, has become this worldwide phenomenon, and he's trying to rekindle that creative spark to create something new, that he's kind of sold his soul in a way. I don't say sold out, but he's trying to find his place in the world now, and try not to feel too foolish for selling his creation that he could have held on to and been much more successful. But there's a lot of themes going on here. I think he's kind of hitting rock bottom. He's kind of he's not the best person, I don't think, to be around, but I think it's very interesting. I wonder how much of this is true, because he was like drug dealers' money. He's scraping by to make a few bucks here and there. He's trying to look out for people that he was friends with previously. So there's a lot going on here that I just thought was very interesting. So we follow Bookman. He's the character that he's reflecting on where he is in life, what he's done, people in his past. And I just love this book. I love the artwork. The artwork is very fitting for the book. And it's a great, solid kind of slice of life, I guess, story. And I wonder, like I said, how much of this is true or what really happened. Kind of sad.
But you don't need to know TMNT or whatever.
No, there's a group. I don't think they can refer to them in the book. They made up like a fictional group of animal ninjas that you can kind of put it together what they're referring to. But yeah, you don't need to know anything about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to enjoy it. I think just knowing that they exist is enough just to follow along in the story and the phenomenon that they became, especially in the early 90s or so. I mean, it was a huge franchise. It's still huge now, but yeah, it's very interesting. It's a great, great book.
Sounds really intriguing. The next up for me is Grommets, Grommets. I learned that a grommet is either a skateboarder or a surfer, or somebody who's new to maybe learning to be a skateboarder. So this is by Image Comics. This is issue number 1. So I will mention the artists quickly. Rick Remender, who we've known. We're reading a few other series, so that's maybe why I got pulled in. And Brian Posehn. So those are the 2 writers. Brian Posehn is a comedian, stand-up comedian, and I think he's written for Deadpool, possibly. And then Brett Parson is the artist. And the artwork is really different. It's really interesting. I think ties in well with the theme, which is a new kid in high school kind of thing and trying to fit in. But it's set way back when in 1984 in Sacramento, California. So the new kid's name is Rick, and as you said earlier, this is kind of a slice of life so far, really not too much happening. And I think maybe because it's younger characters, normally I don't go for that sort of thing. But I I got hooked because something about the dialogue, seemed really honest to me. I think the artwork also fit fairly well. It's the dialogue uses words like gnarly and dweeb and poser and all things like those kinds of terms that you would imagine, but also other language that is what they're not pulling their punches per se. It's really how people talked back in the day, and probably to a certain extent still do. So in some ways it's refreshing, so I appreciated that. But basically I don't want to say, there's not too much to say. It's, the main character kind of tries to find his way. He gets picked on a lot, but he's trying to find his way as a kind of a skateboarder, and he meets a new friend. Everybody makes fun of him because of, they're seen with their parents, and so many of us have gone through these things. And there's a great setup at the end where, I guess Rick's friend, interesting, the main character is Rick Remender, and the second character is Brian Posehn. I just figured that out. But Brian is the new friend, and he makes a big dive on the skateboard park. That's quite a scene, quite a splash. He really beefs it. So I just wanted to say, I won't give too much details per se, because you kind of have to see it and the way it's depicted. So I was really happy with this one. I was actually pleasantly surprised, because I didn't think I was going to like it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it looked good. I didn't see it at my local store, and I didn't get a chance to grab it. So yeah, it's one I definitely will check out. And I think Rick Remender, I'm going to give a shot to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those creators that we talk about that we just kind of, whatever it is, I'll give it a shot. So the next one for me is one that I took a chance on, and I feel a little foolish admitting this, but the next one is Darth Maul Black, White, and Red, #1. The reason I feel foolish about it is because I didn't realize that the color palette is all black, white, and red. It never occurred to me that those are the three colors that they use in the art. But it fits perfectly with Darth Maul, and Darth Maul is one of those Star Wars characters that it's like, whatever, he's just one of those cool characters. Like, you just want to know more about him. He's, just a neat looking character. And I know that there's a lot of lore, the Star Wars lore with Darth Maul. There's a lot, if you can really dig into it, there's a lot out there with Darth Maul. But I thought I'd give it a shot. It seems like a self-contained story. Basically, Darth Maul is tasked with stopping this cult that worships chaos or anarchy and darkness. And it's not so much as, I say darkness is not really the dark side. It's more just worshiping the void, worshiping nothing. And the dark side, the Empire, has kind of a code. They have, whether or not, of course, they're the bad people, but this cult worships just chaos. And the void and space. And I love those kind of things. Space stories and kind of the void. It seems like it fits. But yeah, he battles this cult, and I thought it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I love the artwork in it. I love the colors, of course, and it was just a good time. I'm glad I took a chance on it. A lot of Marvel books have this kind of style that a lot of the books I've tried have a certain style that I'm just not really a big fan of. This one did not fit that style. It has a very distinct style. It felt like a human did it. A lot of the other Marvel books feel like it's kind of computer generated. It doesn't feel like it has that touch. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. It was fun.
So I'm assuming that is this pre-Phantom Menace then?
Yeah, I think it is right around, like right before that time. I think it's before Vader. So it's before the events of the prequels, or I know I call them prequels because that's what I already always knew them as.
Me
but
too.
Yeah, before the events of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I think of them as prequels as well.
Yeah. It's maybe you get in trouble with some people who say that.
Really?
But yeah,
okay.
There's some pretty hardcore Star Wars fans out there, but yeah, I think it was fun. I mean, it was neat. I love that kind of the story before the Phantom Menace and kind of seeing how those things fit. And there's some really cool characters in Star Wars that I think are a lot of fun. And there's actually a Vader book that I read last year. I forget the name of it, but it was pretty good. It was kind of after Vader became Vader and the time period of, all those events. And yeah, there's a lot of great stories to be told. It's just there's so many of them. It's hard to find them.
Yeah. I think I had mentioned, maybe it was over a month ago, that, I only read issue number 1 of Thrawn Alliances, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't continue, but I was like, when I was younger, I wanted so much more of the world, and I kind of wish I had read more of all the books that came out. There were so many books that came out. I heard that the Darth Vader series is really good. I might check that out.
Mm.
That was my favorite scene. Well, maybe I shouldn't say in one of the relatively new movies.
30-year-old movie. Yeah.
So, okay. Next up for me, I have William of Newbury. This is by Dark Horse Comics, issue number 1. And this is I kind of like, I'm very interested when I find out it's a one person show. And this is Michael Avon Oeming, who's the writer, colorist, and illustrator, artist, if you will. So that always appeals to me. I don't know why, but something about it. It's one vision. I'm sure there's editing and all of that comes into play, but something about that really works for me usually. However, the story is not something maybe that I would go for, but when I think about it, maybe my younger self really loves these kinds of things. So on the cover is a raccoon dressed as like a monk, with these kind of flying ghosts in the background, and it's a really interesting character. That's the titular William from the title, and this interestingly takes place in the 12th century of England during what's known as the Anarchy. And for those of you that are following, the House of the Dragon series that's based on that time period, the Fire and Blood book, I should say, is based on that time period in history. Father William is a kind of medieval ghostbuster. I made that up. I mean, it's not, certainly don't use those words here, but he's kind of looked down upon at the Abbey for the work that he does. He helps people that are dealing with spirits or ghosts. I think the main abbot chastises him for taking the devil's coin. So he's kind of making a living, and then bringing it back, I guess, to the monastery. But this is not a human world. There are many different characters: mice, cats, rabbits. I think one that doesn't bother me. One kind of issue, maybe it's not it's a real minor issue, is the dialogue seems very modern in some cases, and I guess that's okay. I think you just have to accept that sometimes. He does team up with a kind of a thief mouse character, which is kind of cool. Interestingly, and I didn't catch this, but towards the back page, last 2 pages of the book, I think I read that this is considered medieval horror, but I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure if it. I mean, I wasn't really feeling. It was more campy in some ways, but it's actually pretty good. Like it's fine. I'm not saying it's the best thing I've read, but it's different. I can't tell if it's if it's YA or not. I don't know how to tell. Maybe it's more of a YA type of audience. I can't. I have to continue to maybe make that determination.
That is definitely. Oh, I see. Okay. Huh. It's on the Dark Horse website. It's labeled, the genre is crime, fantasy, horror.
Okay.
So
yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, I guess it certainly falls under. It's more of a supernatural, kind of elements here so far. Like not really like magic per se, if you will.
I'll check that out. Interesting. Speaking of checking things out, you've been talking about Holy Roller for I don't know, months and months and months. I finally got around to picking up the issues, and I read. This is a little bit late, obviously. This is like months too late, but I got around to reading the Holy Roller 1, and it was fun. It was kind of see what they're setting up here, and it was a little more serious than I was expecting. It was a little more. Not to say that I didn't expect it to take itself seriously, but it touches on some pretty serious topics that I wasn't expecting. So yeah, it was fun. It's I'm not sure I quite get. There's some events that happen towards the end where one of our characters is attacked, and I wonder, do they hold a grudge for that long for all these years? But I'm guessing there's more they'll fill in as we go in the series. But yeah, so far it's a much more of an emotional ride than I was expecting. I expected kind of not a slapstick story, but I didn't expect it to be this serious. But no, it's definitely one I'll continue reading it. I already bought all the other issues, so I'm reading it anyway. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that's kind of what I remembered from the first issue. Is like I didn't know where it was going. It didn't seem super funny. It had a few references that were more comedic, but it certainly, in my opinion, changes in the next issue or two. But I'd like to hear how it goes for you. No assumptions that you'll like it. I don't know.
So I mean, I think it was fun. I mean, so far, it's good stuff. Good. And it's Remender, so can't be bad.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything Remender's ever done that I didn't like. Thinking back, I think everything has been good or really, really good. So there's a few I think that I, was okay. It was good. I didn't love it, but like the Sacrificers and other things he's done recently is just blowing in my mind.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
good stuff.
Definitely. So this is I actually read 2 issues back to back because I was a little bit behind. So my next pick is Creature, from the Black Lagoon Lives. And that's based.
That was my fault. I typed it in wrong.
But I knew better, but I still said it anyway. If you just put any writing before this man, I will read it. Isn't that a quote from Anchorman?
Yeah.
So if any of you, I don't know, depends on who's listening this, but I believe that I actually watched the film. This is a continuation of the Universal Pictures Monster. And there was a 1954 film that, if I'm not mistaken, I watched as a young person. And I think it was on TV, and I actually might have worn 3D glasses. I don't know if I'm actually reading the Wikipedia page and it does say something about it. So I don't think the 3D was very good, but I do remember kind of liking the film. This series is some sort of a continuation. And one of the names that appealed to me from the writing team is Ram V. who I know, Steve, you've talked about, so I wanted to mention that to you. And then it's another writer is Dan Waters, and with artwork by Matthew Roberts. And this centers on a character named Kate, who is a reporter, and she's like investigating. She's investigating like some drowning / killing, but she is a very flawed person. She is addicted to amphetamines. She's haunted by nightmares. So right off the bat, we get some really interesting character development for the main character. And I thought that the artwork meshed very well. There's some very kind of what I would call mesmerizing sequences here where she is kind of waking up from dreams, but also I think alludes to the fact that she may have experienced, drowning, and of course the creature comes from, this kind of, lagoon, whatever water environment. And so a lot of kind of bodies are found that are washed up. And the question is whether, is that the creature, does the creature exist? And we find out that, yes, there is a creature, but the big question is the creature a friend or foe? So that's what we get into more in issue number 2. And I won't go into all the details because I think the first issue was really great. The second issue, a lot happens, where maybe the first issue was more exposition and kind of building up the characters. The second issue surprised me with all of the action. But in some ways, it wasn't too much, and maybe we should expect that because this is kind of based on a film, and there is some good writing here. The violence of the creature and kind of the hallucinations that the character this character Kate is experiencing is depicted expertly, in my opinion, by Matthew Roberts. Overall, I'm surprised. I'm loving the artwork. It's just somehow meshing well with the story. I don't think you need to really know the story of the film. I was telling Steve I didn't really do my homework and like look it up beforehand, but I don't think you need to. And I don't think that's something that we feel we need to do. One thing I will say that has nothing to do with the series really is at the end of issue number 2, we got a preview for G.I. Joe Transformers, the Energon Shared Universe. I thought I'd let you know, but we're not following that story so much. I did read Transformers 1, but I didn't continue. But I didn't realize there was like a shared Energon universe.
Yeah, they're doing a whole thing. I think there's a new G.I. Joe book this week. Scarlet.
Yes, I saw that.
Number 1. Yeah. I think I read Cobra Commander number 1, and I heard everyone rave about it. It was fine. I didn't really do it for me, but I hear there's some great books. The franchise stuff I tend to avoid just because it's usually weighed down with continuity or things that they kind of have to do with it, and that very rarely do they take chances. So yeah, and it looks like the Creature from the Black Lagoon is a four-part miniseries.
Okay. So. And they do reference the Dracula. There was a Dracula comic. I don't know if it was the same authors or not. I thought you might have read that, but maybe not.
I don't think. No. I think I was reading. Gosh, what's the other book I was reading? Slipping my mind. The vampire one.
Yeah. Blood's
Mortal Terror.
Oh, there was another Mortal one Terror. We were reading that was a vampire one. Blood. Yeah. Something or other.
Oh. Jeez.
Anyway,
I just ended. It'll come to me.
Yeah.
I think the trade just came out for that too. By the way.
Exactly.
Sacrament or Blood. I forget, but it was. I love the artwork in that one. I think the end was a little but there are some interesting themes in that one. So it doesn't happen too often, but every once in a while, our pick of the week will match up. The planets will align, and we'll both pick the same book. And this is one of those weeks that we both picked the same one. I'm a little bit bummed it's a one shot.
Yeah.
But the pick this week was Death Ratioed. For anyone who's not familiar with it, it's basically a story. It's not basically, it is a story about a man who goes into a coma and wakes up 20 years from now, and he finds that the world has changed a lot. Part of what's changed is that everyone has a collar that if you receive, social media rules the world. So if you receive too many dislikes, if you're mean to people, or if people just don't like you or just want to see your head explode, they'll dislike you and your head will get blown off, kind of Suicide Squad-esque. It reminded me a lot of the Black Mirror episode, for those of you who've seen that. The social credit episode where it's everyone is kind of runs on social credits that they get from social media or interactions. And this one's just, it's really funny. It's scary. It's also funny. Because this man wakes up and he finds himself in this world where social media runs everything. Everyone's very vain, and they really poke fun at a lot of the different types of people you'll experience online, like the trolls and the people always looking for validation, or always like the positive, there's some other people, positivity, just trying to win favor. They don't really care. They just want people to think they give, what. So yeah, it was a lot. It's just, it is very much turning a mirror on a lot of what you'll experience online if you're on social media. So very, very funny, very clever, and also very scary.
Yes. And I will say quickly that the subtitle is Don't Let Social Media Go to Your Head. So right off the bat, you don't know what that means, but when you look back on that, it's quite funny. So like heads are popping off left and right here. And I thought it was really interesting that apparently there was a real social media war that took place. Mm-hmm. We learn, and that the government no longer exists, and that kind of people are like some people are like living underground. It was very complex. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It's 40 something pages. It felt like somehow it works as a complete work for me.
Yeah.
So that's why I really loved it. And, I just read it right before we recorded, so it's fresh in my mind. And I really love the artwork as well. It ties in, I think, nicely with, kind of the horror that is experienced by, the main character. I think his name is Arnold. And I think, I guess we can kind of maybe relate, because he goes into his coma in 2024 and then wakes up in whatever 2040, is it 2046 if I'm doing the math correctly. But yeah, it's really really something else. Awesome.
Yeah, great. I love the color palette too of the artwork. The artwork was great. Everything about it was really great. I kept hearing about it, and usually I'm nervous when I hear so many good things about a book, but this one really delivered. It really exceeded expectations, even after all the positive things I heard about it. Really great book. And on one hand, I'm disappointed it's not an ongoing, but at the same time, like you said, it delivers its message and it gets out. And sometimes that's good, just to not overstay your welcome. So yeah, I just think it was, we've had another book recently, Crave, which is another book that had a lot of social media commentary in it. And I kind of feel like things are changing, that people are starting to kind of look at themselves and how social media affects them, and how they can fall into these traps, and kind of just laugh at ourselves sometimes too, about how serious we can take these things, and just realize that it's not real life. It's, it's not real. And it's just, what you see isn't a reflection of reality, and it can really get to your head.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't. I agree with you. I'm not so sure if I've seen changes happening, but maybe I need to get out more. I don't know. I love to believe it. Um, I think this thing even this story even comments on the algorithm, kind of thing. And I just, I know with what you've set up, Steve, with page chewing and all of that, it's kind of like a whole nother way of interacting. That's not so much about, it's not really about, it's about having fun. And so I appreciate it. I'm not really on social media much at all. So, kind of, sometimes kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah.
And like you said, it really touches on some of those tropes of people that are seeking validation, where they're making fun of themselves so that they get lifted up, or they self-deprecate. And then there's as you said, the trolls and the Christian dating service.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're giving too much away, but I still think it's worth picking up.
Definitely worth the read. Definitely worth the cover price for that one. Recommend that one. Obviously it's a pick. So lots of great commentary. And even if you're, I know some people don't, because I'm the same way. Sometimes you just don't want to be preached to. You just don't want to hear somebody tell you all the things that you do, like kind of criticize your choices. And I get that, but I think there's enough here to just kind of laugh.
Yeah.
I think whether you want to have the message delivered or you just want to have a funny story, especially the whole nudes thing. I thought was hilarious. There's lots and lots of great stuff. And, the whole algorithm thing, algorithm rules the world. And a lot of it was just fun, just really great time.
Yeah. And one last thing is you wear clothing that shows ads to people until you get a certain amount of likes, and then you can no longer project ads to people constantly.
Maybe I'm hopeful that there is a change happening, that we are starting to reflect, because I'm afraid that if we don't, we'll end up with clothes that have ads on them. And we'll have this kind of social credit system. I do think there is a movement. I think there's certain groups who are starting to shy away from social media and starting to kind of get away a little bit from technology. I keep reading about Gen Zers who are shying away from social media, who are kind of, because they've grown up with it. They don't know any different. So I think some of them are starting to kind of crave more authentic, more real connections, and not digitally. So, there's good and bad in everything. So, but no, it's a great book.
Yeah. So I just had remembered the name of the vampire book. I believe was Blood Commandment, by the way.
Blood Commandment. I kept thinking Blood Sacrament.
It's close.
Yeah. Close. A lot of books to read. So that's episode 44.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so.
A little shy. So that's it for us this week. But let us know what you've been reading, what you're up to. We can be found on pagechewing.com/forum. You can DM either of us privately, or post on our club that we have there for the podcast. Come and say hello, make recommendations. There's also a fan mail link in the description. You can send us a message and just say hello and just be nice. But reach out. If you are the person who listens every week religiously, then let me know. That'll make our week for sure. And we are nearing issue 50 or episode 50, and we're trying to figure out what to do with that. But if you have any suggestions, we're all ears. It'll be fun to hit that milestone. I think it's I kind of just started this as a fun little side thing, and here we are, almost issue 50. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah. It's quite an accomplishment for you, Steve. I've only been doing it for a few months.
No, you've been doing it for, I think, more than half, right? More than
Maybe.
half.
You could be right there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I've accumulated a huge pile of comics. Let me say, but it
adds up.
Yeah.
It adds up fast for sure. So cool. Well, thanks everyone, and let us know what you're up to, how you're doing, and until next time, we will talk to everyone very soon.
Bye-bye.